Hello, friends. Welcome to the 5th episode of Season 2 of the Schoolyard Podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in 5th on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. This is the Schoolyard Podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. We're about to embark on a classroom revolution that will transform the way your students learn and interact. In today's episode, we're diving into the Great Collaborative Classroom Makeover, a guide to reshaping your learning spaces for maximum engagement and teamwork. Get ready to discover practical, budget-friendly tips that will turn your traditional classroom into a hub of collaboration. From innovative desk arrangements to flexible seating options and designated teamwork zones, we'll explore how simple changes can spark creativity, boost participation, and create an environment where every student thrives. Today, our guest is Dr. Ann Highland, National Education Strategist from School Specialty. Ann, welcome back to the Schoolyard Podcast.
Thanks for having me back again.
It's always so great to have you here. Would you please share with our first-time listeners a little bit about yourself and your educational background?
Absolutely. And first of all, I have to say it is so exciting to be back again after our last episode. Might be a little hard to top, but that episode was an award-winning episode. So we're going to have to try really hard.
I know. Thank you so much for that. That was such a fun episode and so informative.
It was a blast. It was. Well, thanks again, like I said, for having me here. I am the National Education Strategist here at School Specialty, and my background is a long background. This was my 30th year in education. I'm super excited. And I have been everything from a principal to a career and tech ed director to a district curriculum director. You know how it is after a few years in the business, you do a little bit of everything.
You wear all the hats. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I love today's title of the episode, The Great Collaborative Classroom Makeover. And you're the queen of classroom makeovers. It is so grand. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what collaborative classroom means and why that's so important?
Well, I think personally that collaborative classroom means a couple of different things. On the very surface, it means having students interact with each other with purpose. It also means having them interact with the teacher, with the content, kind of all mixed together. Not just sit down and work on this worksheet together, but actually have a conversation, have a deep conversation about what they're learning, why they're learning it, how they can learn it differently, or maybe the way they can present things. But it also means creating an environment that can support that. Because we know that there are certain types of chairs and desks that don't move around easily, that don't allow kids to move things around. And I think when we have kids own that space, that really encourages them to, again, get up, move around, have a conversation with someone. Does kind of scare people though sometimes. It's kind of interesting to let go a little bit of that control. But the more exciting, it is in the classroom and the more excited kids are about being there, the more collaborative they'll be.
Right. There's nothing better, nothing I like to see more than students actually physically coming together, like putting their heads together to work and talk and get so excited. And teachers, we talk about whole body listening. And I feel like when the students are actually moving and turned and facing each other and gathered around, they are doing that whole body listening too.
I love that phrase. I have to steal that one. I like that. I like that a lot.
I want to take credit, but I can't take credit for it. Okay, so
it makes so much sense though. I love that because when you are physically turning to look at somebody and you can see their expression and you can see their excitement about learning, it rubs off on you. So you see that hubbub around and you hear that whisper and that chit chat that happens. Absolutely the greatest sound ever.
Mm-hmm. Suan, I know you present at many different conferences and professional developments, and you work with teachers that have zero experience to many, many years of experience. When you're mentoring these teachers, what's your top piece of advice for creating collaborative classrooms that you wish someone had told you when you first started?
Boy, I wish somebody would have told me just to jump in and try it. Just,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to have it not work. It's okay if students don't know what to do. It's okay if the noise level gets really loud and you can't hear over everybody. But the more you try it, the more you practice, the better you get. And you'll get that wonderful hum and excitement that happens. And it becomes just this electric time in your classroom. So just get out there and try it.
Oh, I love that advice. Suan, what is your secret weapon for turning a classroom into a collaboration powerhouse?
Oh boy, I thought long and hard about this one. I've got to tell you, I think adding a few things in there, little changes, starting small,
Hmm.
is really important. And the more you can sit down with the students and say, what do you need? Involving them in that process, I think is probably my one secret weapon. Is the kids are smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
tell you what they need. They're going to tell you if they need an open space or if they need a small little almost like a Shark Tank kind of feel in a spot
Mm-hmm.
in their room. I think involving them is a pretty good secret weapon.
I love that. It's a piece of advice. When we talked about SEL spaces, when we talked about like so many different topics, and that's something that came up by that was brought up by a lot of our guests too, getting the students involved. And I think that's the best piece of advice because what like sometimes as adults, as teachers, what we think is really cool or innovative might not be quite as cool to some of the younger students. And same thing, something that we might view as very effective might not be very suitable or even like um, desirable for our students, right? So testing it out,
Absolutely.
having them share, ideas of what they would like and testing it out. And what happens, what works really well for one school year, one group of students might not be the same the following year, right?
I think that is
Oh.
such a wise piece of advice because
Hmm.
I think we get into that rut sometimes where we want one system and that
Hmm.
one system we do over and over. Remember, I'm going to date us here for a second. Are you ready?
Hmm. Go ahead.
Remember the days of the red, yellow, and green cards, and we would have them flipping those cards. We
Hmm.
now know because we've
Hmm.
gotten better, we know that doesn't work. That's
Right.
not effective.
Hmm.
Might have been okay at the very beginning, but it's not
Hmm.
now.
Uh-huh.
So I think you're right. I think things do change, and it's okay that they
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, just jumping in and trying it,
Yep,
right?
100%.
And
100%.
if it's not something you want to do, then jump right back out or
Well,
jump into
and
something else.
absolutely. And what a great example you're setting for kids when you can look
Right.
at them and say,
Mm-hmm.
holy smokes, that did not work the way I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think was broken with that? How do you think it went? And again, you we may think it was really a huge failure and the kids go, wow, that was the best brainstorming we've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's try it that way again.
Yeah. We had in one of our earlier episodes, we had Naomi Hartle on, and one of the quotes that I mean, I love all of your quotes too, Suanne. I always like reuse them all the time. Um, but one of the quotes that she said, because I have this big word like fail, FAIL, and I
Mhm.
used to always put, used to have first attempt in learning, but she said she, uses frequent attempts in learning. So I changed it. I was like, I love that.
I
So
love that.
right. That's like a great message that we tell our students. You just learned another way, like one more way that doesn't work, right? But it's the
Right.
frequent attempts in learning, and we learn from them. Yeah.
Naomi's so awesome. She
I know.
absolutely, I heard that episode and I was like, I wish I would have thought of that. It's such a great one.
Right, right. I mean,
Great.
all of the subject matter specialists, subject matter experts that we've had from school specialty, I learned a ton from, especially you. Okay, so we talked about failing and frequent attempts in learning. And so our next question kind of leads into that. But first, this would be a perfect place to break for a little commercial.
At School Specialty, we don't just sell Classroom Select and Childcraft furniture. We manufacture it. You have our promise it is designed with purpose, built for quality, and priced affordably. Available only at schoolspecialty.com.
Snoozlin knows the true power of a multisensory room comes from letting students choose the experiences they need. It may look like simply changing a color or sound, but those choices can change a mood, or a day, or a life. Snoozlin, only from schoolspecialty.com.
And we're back. I've had my share of pure flops, like things that just did not go right. Can you share your most memorable "what was I thinking" moment when when something like that has happened? What it taught you about creating collaborative spaces?
Oh my goodness. The list is huge, I'm sure.
So you learned a ton.
I learned so much. I think one funny one that I had, it was when I was really a young teacher. And remember when you're young and you're new to the profession, you kind of go into it like everything's got to be perfect. It's got to look exactly the way I imagine it needs to look. And sometimes we do forget to involve the kids, like we talked about. So one time I was teaching third grade, and we were teaching in an imaginary schoolhouse, a one-room schoolhouse. We were doing pioneer work, and I went in over the weekend, and I was building this beautiful, great classroom, and even did what I thought was a really interesting looking tree up, and when we got all the kids in, they kind of looked at things, and I said, oh, and I had my back facing the room, and I said, oh yeah, aren't you guys so excited? Doesn't it look like a one-room schoolhouse and the playground? And they said, oh yeah, do you want us to fix that? Do you want us to help you put everything up, because it doesn't look like it's done? I turned around, every single thing I had built fell down. And
Oh
so right
no.
then and there, it was such a fun time. Of course, I was crushed, and the kids knew I was crushed
Oh.
because I wanted it to be perfect. But what I learned is they jumped in, they learned how to work together, they did it together, and they had a part to play in the way our classroom looked and felt. And it was so neat to watch them sit down and brainstorm and come up with ideas together. And I think from that time on, I went, wait a minute, hold on. They should have a voice in that feel that we set up for a classroom. And at that minute, I literally changed everything that I did as far as, how that look and feel happened. I let them talk about the best ways to learn. I let them figure out the seating arrangements and who, sometimes we'll put together a seating chart, and we think we've got the greatest combination of who sits where, but our kids know. And they start making those choices and saying, oh, you know what? I can't sit by Nancy today because she and I had a sleepover and a birthday party, and I know we're going to talk about that all week. So I better make the choice to sit here instead. It's those little things, but shifting that ownership in that moment has been something that's lived with me ever since.
Wow, that's great. And it's teaching them life lessons, right? Like, yeah,
Absolutely.
making those mature decisions to not sit with their friends that they're going to be distracted by, or, who will be distracting to each other. Right? Those
Absolutely.
are great lessons. Yeah.
Absolutely. That all of those decorations falling was the ultimate of Naomi's definition. That was frequent attempts that did not work.
Yeah. Well, it was meant to happen so that you could create this learning and,
That's
learning and
right. That's right.
collaborative experience. Well, if you could design the ultimate collaboration station without failing for a classroom using only, let's say, 5 items, What would
Okay.
they be, and how would you use them to foster teamwork and engagement?
I think if I was going to design a collaboration station, the first thing I would do is create a space that was really inviting looking. So the first thing that I would do is bring in some different types of seating. So
Mhm.
we're going to say that counts as one, even though it would be multiple types of seating. We're going to say changing the seating up. The
Okay.
second thing I would do in a collaboration station is bring a whiteboard in that's
Mhm.
portable.
Mhm.
Students could use to ideate
Mm.
together,
Mhm.
share information, come up with great ideas, whatever they wanted. So that's number two. The
Mhm.
third one I would put in there is a bucket of just creation materials,
Mhm.
things like scissors, crayons, markers, paper, that kind of what we probably would have called an art kit years
Mhm.
ago, but just materials that they can build and create with. And
Mhm.
then my fourth one, oh man, or my fifth one would be, oh gosh, that one is so hard. I think I would put in some kind of digital resource for them. So if they've got an
Mm. Mhm.
idea and they need
Mhm.
to research it, they can do it on the spot. Not
Mm.
going somewhere else, not taking the
Mhm.
time out of that moment, that exciting moment.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably give them some kind of technology.
That would be a great resource.
Hmm.
Um, oh, these are really good. At first, I was like, should I just ask for three? Because like five seems like a lot, but I really like your top
Oh,
five choices.
thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Okay, so you've been granted the power to break one law of physics in your classroom to enhance collaboration. Which law would you break? I think I know what I want to break. Which law
Okay.
would you break, and how does it revolutionize your teaching space?
Oh man. I think it would have to be the law of gravity.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I would use it in a couple of ways. I
Uh-huh.
would allow students to
Mm-hmm.
float back and forth between,
Mm-hmm.
oops, okay, that
Mm-hmm.
might be kind of fun. But
Mm-hmm.
then I think I would use it to float around groups just to be able to hear and kind of stay out of the way, not invade on what they're doing, just
Mm-hmm.
be able to be there and listen and
Mm-hmm.
float around the room that way. How would you
Mm.
use the gravity?
Well, I that was like the first thing that came to my mind. But I just kind of more than me floating around, I envisioned students kind of floating around, or just kind of like, sometimes we just like feel weighed down. And so like I just feel like if they were able to just kind of like when they're thinking, they could just lightly float up in the air. Or like, I don't know, I just
Love that.
feel like that would be just a very relaxing therapeutic thing to do.
Love it.
I don't know.
Love it.
I'm sure there will be a lot of management that we have to, like put into place with that. But it was just a fun question.
Some air
Yeah.
traffic control involved,
Oh,
to
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Float back over
that's right.
here.
That's right.
Yeah,
Come back over
yeah.
here.
Right, right. Okay. Another fun question. If you could
Okay.
design a collaborative classroom inspired by your favorite book or movie, what would it look like, and which key element would you incorporate?
Well, anyone who knows me knows I am a complete Star Wars nut.
Oh.
So it would have to be inspired by Star Wars. So what would it look like? I would have things like different worlds as my different
Mhm,
corners. So it might be, the planet of Tatooine for one, and then it might be
mhm,
another planet, might even bring in a little bit of, the Death Star or some of those other kinds of fun items,
uh-huh,
just because then kids could find nooks and crannies to go sit.
uh-huh,
How can I bring in the different feelings of those different planets and those different spaceships and things like that? I mean,
mhm.
who would not want to go and read sitting in a land speeder or a TIE
Oh
fighter?
my
I mean,
gosh,
come
uh-huh.
on.
That would be so fun.
Fun.
Okay, and that whole law of gravity, defying law of gravity will definitely come in handy with that, with that theme.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, these are fun. I love your answers. So creative. Okay, so we have a segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners write in with a question and we answer them here with our guests. All right, with Halloween coming up, we have candy on our minds. What is your favorite Halloween candy and what is your least favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, probably my two. Can I give you two favorites? I mean,
Of
let's go
course.
two favorites. Let's go
We don't want to
one.
discriminate.
I know. Let's go one chocolate, one non-chocolate. So
Okay.
I'm probably an oddball. I love Smarties. I love that sour, kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel. I
Mm-hmm.
do love the names. And then I think my favorite is the dark Milky Ways. The dark
Oh,
chocolate Milky Ways. They're super good.
ooh.
Super good.
Okay. So I think what we should do is after Halloween, we should swap candies because I actually don't like
Ooh.
the dark chocolate and don't like Smarties. So
Oh,
I'll
no.
swap some candy with you.
Well, what's your favorite?
Okay. I do have two favorites too. And the
Okay.
first one is very rare. It's they're the it's like a lollipop, but they're the caramel apple pops. And so they have the caramel on the outside and have the green apple candy on the inside. So those are my favorite, kind of rare. And I do love Snickers. I'm just a simple Snickers girl. I don't like
Okay.
nerds
Yeah, I'm not a
or
big nerd
Smarties. Yeah,
fan.
nerds and Smarties. No. I know okay, I just recently discovered freeze-dried candies. I don't know if you've ever tried those. I don't think
No,
anyone's going to be passing them out, but freeze-dried Skittles are the best. I'm going to have to send you some.
really?
I was at a fair.
Really?
Yeah, I was at a fair and I saw them, but I was like, and then I'm not a big fan of Nerds, but they had freeze-dried Nerds and they were really good too. So I was like,
Okay. Well, and
reimagined
nerds would have
candy.
been on my least favorite list. So
Okay.
I've got to try a freeze-dried nerd.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send you
Love-
some.
I love
Okay.
it.
Well, Sue-Ann, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us again. It's always wonderful having you here. And thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Schoolyard Podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag Your It. Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard Podcast for our segment called Tag Your It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter at School Specialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag Your It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. And if your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard Podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.